Oh my God, I was talking all this while. I was assuming I was unmuted. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'm not going to say it all back again. I'll share screen. So I briefly covered in the last live session, as well as I shared a resource with you on one case study I have in mind, agri water in my village. So basically, what is a model? So can somebody explain what this is? Varun sir, purposeful abstraction of reality. What do you feel means, what model means when we say this? Or anybody else? Can you just have a go at it? When I say model is a purposeful abstraction of reality, what do I mean by that? Any volunteers?
So by abstraction, we can't explain the whole outcome. So we try to explain a majority of it using some variables. Let us say 90% of
Right.
the outcome can be explained by few variables. That's what they mean by abstraction.
Okay. True. Abstract is like for a paper we have a summary. So we try to capture as much as we can. Like you said, maybe 90%, even 99% if we are fortunate. The reason we do it is uh, how do we, without actually experimenting with the real world, can we experiment on a model like a simulator? Without flying a plane, I can try learning the planing in a simulator. So model is almost like a simulator. That is where the word simulation also comes, modeling and simulation. Anyway, each of us will have to understand in our own way, and we do understand what model is. Now, there are various methods of modeling, especially when you, why do you want to do participate? What is the reason? Whom do you want to participate? Basically, there are several stakeholders in any situation. You want them to participate because not all information can be gathered objectively by sensors. You have to talk to people. The mood of the people matters. For example, share market. It's not very objective. There's a lot of subjective element. You know, what people think, feel, confidence, etc. So when you talk to people, you get to know those things. So you want to involve people in the process of modeling. That is participatory modeling. Any doubts in that process? Why? What is this participatory in the PM? Participatory modeling. I am assuming all of you have a feel for it. For example, when you want to send a rocket to moon and you want to model that situation, you don't do participatory modeling. You do scientific modeling and that's enough. You do wind tunnel experiment and other things like that. Scientifically, you don't involve stakeholders as such. But the moment you try to model a socio-economic situation, it is better you talk to people, the stakeholders. You know? So one of those methods of doing it is system dynamics. There are other methods are agent-based modeling, Bayesian networks. There are several other methods. So we chose the system dynamics method because it's one of the most popular. And basically, one more way of thinking is most of us work in our own silos. How this is related to this course is, okay, you all have picked up a few skills about GIS, satellite, drone imagery, and machine learning. But where are they useful? What problems can they solve? You need a holistic view of things. That is systems view, it's called. Systems engineering, systems perspective, systems view. System dynamics is one way of looking at the whole thing. That's what we are trying to do in this. It's a method introduced by Professor J. Forrester in the 60s at MIT. Still very relevant. So this I covered in the video as well as in the last live session. We won't spend much. No, this is 80s, 90s, and it collapsed by 2000. What happened? We started looking at it. Did participatory water accounting with NGOs, local, academia, etc. There were very few wells in the 70s. 80s and 90s, it exploded. So if we compare, we started drawing 13 times more water than we were doing before. And that is one order of magnitude more than our income. If our expenditure is an order of magnitude more than our income, this is what will happen. Our property will go down, whatever little we have. This is what happened. The water table kept crashing. At some point, it became zero. So only a few wells remained, and they didn't have any reserve to tap into. Whatever water came that year, that's what they could pull out. Okay, but what are the losses? Capital costs, farmers' loss, recurring costs, whatever water could be tapped at 50 feet, you're sending it all the way down to 600 feet, picking it back up at government expense because electricity is free. So recurring cost is borne by the government. That is the cost of this experiment. All these calculations we did. And what is the solution finally? Why do we model? In the hope that we can use that model to try out various scenarios and identify one that gives the results that we want. And that is the solution. In this particular case, we are saying interlinking wells so that people can share or sell water to each other. Okay. So anyway, there's uncertainty. All modeling has uncertainty. And the best way is exposed to stakeholders. These we covered in the video as well as in the live session. Any doubts anybody wants, they can unmute and ask. Then there are 3 tasks I gave. So first is I wanted to explain system dynamics as 2 parts, causal loop diagram and stock flow diagram. So I explained this. Basically, I said, take any variable, level variable, population, rate variable, birth and death. They feed into each other. Positive causality, negative causality. This is the cause, this is the effect. Death is the cause, population is the effect, but it has a negative. Whereas we explain level variables, rate variables, constants. Then there is this concept of positive feedback loops, negative feedback loops. Positive feedback loop means, for example, there are no deaths, only births, then the population will explode. That is positive. Negative is balancing, right? Whereas the positive is also called reinforcing, as one of the people were pointing out. This is B, baseline, balancing. Population death. Death keeps population under control. It won't go out of bounds. Now, when you want to run simulations, same thing. You put level variables as rectangles, rate variables as valves, and all the constants that feed into it as just labels. Okay, population into birth rate is birth. Okay, this is how you write the equations. Okay, this is what is one task. Next is so are both the tasks over in that? I don't know why it's taking so long. Task 1.
Sir, in the assignments, these 2 loops are 2 diagrams are sufficient, sir, for 2 tasks. 9 assignments.
Causal loop diagram and stock flow diagram are sufficient. The the assignment 3 is optional.
Yes, sir. These 2. Any example we can take, sir. Example we can take.
So now prey-predator problem is a little more complicated. So there are sheep and wolves. I explained yesterday how, sheep deaths has no sheep death rate because none of them die out of old age. The wolves are there to finish them off. Whereas for wolves, there's no wolf birth rate because that is decided by the amount of food availability, etc. Right? These are in these equations we express. Okay, and this program simulates that. And as you can see, this is depending on the parameters we gave, it oscillates. As sheep pick up, wolves also suddenly start picking up. Once wolves start picking up, sheep drop drastically. And then wolves also drop because there's no food. And then the sheep slowly pick up again. This keeps oscillating. It all depends upon what parameters, values you set. Anyway, now I mentioned one PhD thesis of my student. So where these are the variables, we discussed a little bit of this. And we wrote the the stock and flow diagram like this. So assignment 1 is something like this for your own problem. Assignment 2 is something like this for your problem. Assignment 3 is optional. You run these equations in using programming, Python or Excel or whatever, and email me the results, not submit through the Google form. Okay. Any doubts so far? Otherwise, what we will do is one of you volunteers, I request you to share. Okay. And we will look at the video of Professor Abhijit, the last resource. And that's what we will spend most of our time today on. Looking at other cases, 4 other cases he points out, so that your assignment you can use the same. Some not same. It cannot be the what I gave or what he gives, but something that attracts your attention. Can anyone share, please? Yeah, Venkateswara sir, thank you. Yeah, so you can go open that video of Professor Abhijit Deshpande.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, just one question. So, is there any kind of favorable Python framework or any framework that you use to kind of do the simulation?
See, there are some things available, but most of the time it is not. You can pause, sir, 1 minute. Venkateswara sir, you can pause. So, I have 2 PhD students recently graduated. One of them used Python from scratch. The other one used Excel alone. Okay. You can close that advertisement, sir. This is not for discussion now. Venkateshwarlu, sir. Yeah. What was I talking about? Yeah.
Excel, using Excel for...
Yeah. Excel and Python straight away can be used. NetLogo, I know, is used for agent-based modeling. For system dynamics, there is a tool that they use, but I won't recommend because it locks you there in it. Okay, simple. If you know programming, please go to Python. If you don't know programming, stick to Excel. And both my students have, one has done this way, one has done that way. Both are capable of doing it. Okay.
Right. What data they, like actual data, what do they collect? Let's say we want to kind of, let's take an example of that birth and population thing, right? So what data they collect, like
Okay.
birth rate, the level variables?
Yeah. So what happens, let us take the agri-water situation in my village near Tirupati, okay, in Andhra, South Andhra. So what we do is we know how many wells there are, how much area under irrigation there is, how many farmers there are, okay. And whenever we have a doubt about a variable, we ask the people, right? How many wells are there? How many crops do you cultivate? How much water do you draw? How many hours do you operate? Because it's a real world problem, the data comes from the real world, right? Let's say you are modeling a forest, right, where hunting goes on by the lion and tiger and all that. So there, the data you can't go ask the lion, of course. You'll have to go ask the forest officer, and he'll give you some numbers, right? And when you run the simulation, you should put these numbers as constants, no? So the results, whether you are happy or not happy. Based on that, you can change the numbers again, right?
Okay.
It's an iterative exercise.
Right. So the rainfall, like it comes with a probability, right? Like we may say, okay, or do you just use the past data as deterministic?
Right.
There's no.
So rainfall, we can just simply do extrapolation of whatever the IMD gives, right?
Okay.
If you
Okay.
want to take a probabilistic approach, you can. Actually, then if you want to do probability, there's another model, Bayesian networks.
Right. Yeah.
So that is more suitable.
Okay.
If you want to do a macro modeling, system dynamics. If you want to do micro level agent behavior, agent-based modeling. If you want to take a probabilistic approach, Bayesian networks. Each requirement takes you to a different one.
Okay. Yeah.
Technically, in system dynamics also, I can do probabilistic, but it becomes a little messy.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so here we have in this video, Professor Abhijit Deshpande, who will join with us next week. Okay, so we'll be meeting next week, Wednesday and Saturday. I request you can pause, sir. I will tell you when to start. So in next week, Wednesday and Saturday, I request all of you to join both days. So what we plan to do is we want to look at, there are no resources will be shared. There will be no assignments next week. Next week is we will give a problem statement. I'm giving right away actually. Agri-water situation, the food security in the country, right? In the context of climate change, any movement, what if the wheat crop in India fails? Where will go, begging for food? Do we have enough reserves to last us for till next year? There are buffer stocks, but really, what will happen if wheat crop collapses, right? And the way that I don't know if you remember last May, the summer heat was so unbearable. And how does high temperature heat impact the wheat production yields? All these we want to capture model. Agri, water, food security, climate change, and then population. Our population is increasing substantially, right? In some parts of the country, in other parts. These dimensions if we want to capture. Okay. So what we will do is we will release some preliminary experiments I have tried doing, the causal loop diagram, right? I want you guys to think and come to Wednesday and Saturday sessions. We'll try to make it into a better causal loop diagram. Okay. So we will try to make it interactive, right? You will say, okay, not this link, put this link, I'll do that, etc. By the end of Wednesday and Saturday, we'll have a better causal loop diagram.
So
Anyway.
just one more question, sir. On the causal loop, so there are different strengths with the interactions, right? Like some factor may be very much having more influence than some other factors, right? So do we kind of take care of that particular
Not
aspect?
really, actually. So if you look at the stock flow diagram, what we do is anything, all the variables that come to that rate variable will be multiplied as equal weights. Population into birth rate into some constant. Now, population has the same influence on the number of births as birth rate. In this particular case, both are equal. You are almost talking about to the power, right? Almost. We are saying power square.
Right. Yeah.
So that is basically system dynamics is not a fully modeling. It's more for visualization and thumb rule kind of approach. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So now, is there any way where I can say A square B instead of AB? Two factors. I have not come across that. There could be, right?
Okay.
And regarding tools, Stella is one tool that everybody uses for system dynamics. Stella. Whereas right now somebody pointed out in R you can do, right? But I personally experimented and I'm saying Python and Excel. This is my, otherwise you get locked into these things without commensurate return is my feeling. Anyway, so let us look at the 4 cases Abhijit sir expanded. So you can move on to the next slide. Forward, sir. Venkateswarlu, sir. Yeah, it is. I can't hear your thing, but that's okay. all of us have access to this resource. So I just want to go to the next screen. Go to the next screen and pause, sir. So stop. So basically, scope for wider applications. I gave you the agri-water situation. Here he is giving 4 more situations, just to let you know that it can be used for a variety of cases. One is waste management. Waste has become a big issue. We keep generating every day so much of waste from each household. Then construction activity gives so much of waste, construction rubble, etc. Right? Then we have energy, renewable energy, solar, wind, etc. are becoming very popular. Now, what is the life cycle cost of all this? Right? How renewable are they really? No, solar cell requires photovoltaic, all that. All those you need to take into account. Cost, finally. Third is climate change. Everybody knows, climate change is real. Unusual extremities are being noticed: floods, drought, summer wave, heat wave, etc. Last is rural technology adoption, something that Professor Abhijit is involved in. IITs have a center called Rural Technology Action Group. So just because you have found an adoption innovation doesn't mean it will get accepted. Okay. So how do we look at what gets accepted, what doesn't? Anyway, let's go on. Next, sir. What you can do is you don't have to click the pause, sir. You can move the red, keep clicking on that so that it, yeah. Next, yeah, this one, sir. Next. Yeah, let's stop here and look at this. Stop. Full screen, please. Yeah. So regarding plastic waste, he's looking at waste management, specifically plastic. Okay. So we could have zoomed a little more, but if you see, can someone explain there are how many, there are 2 kinds of loops: positive loops, negative loops. Positive loops basically are reinforcing and it will go out of control. It's the negative loops that we are interested in actually, because they help you balance the system by appropriate changing of the valves. Okay, here we don't have any P actually. Now anyway, there is one R1 and R2. Anybody can explain why R1 is reinforcing? Why? Can you explain please, somebody? Anybody can unmute and explain R1. Any volunteers, please? I want you to explain R1. For example, plastic waste generation, right? You follow the red line. Venkateswarlu sir, plastic waste generation leads to?
Sir, I am unable to just, I don't know.
No problem. So plastic waste generation leads to stock.
Okay.
That is a positive. More generation, more stock will be there. More stock. What is that? I am not able to read.
Clutter. Is that clutter?
Clutter, huh? Cluster.
Yes.
I don't know.
Clutter, sir.
Clutter, huh? What does clutter mean? I wonder. Does he say anything in his speech? Anyway, so we understand it leads to more pollution and nuisance. That is the reason, so more generation, more stock, more nuisance.
Hello.
Sir?
Cluttering is, I think, concentration, piling up.
Hello.
Yeah, go on, please.
Yes, sir. So the clutter here is being mentioned that the number of when the plastic generation stock increases, the more number of clutter and wastes also get increased. That is what was meant there.
Concentration, overflowing, dumps, etc. Maybe, right? It clutters up the place. Okay, maybe. Okay. So anyway, that leads to more pollution. So it will lead to contamination of water bodies, right? So obviously, all pollution ends up in the water bodies. We all know, because water bodies is nobody's. You won't let somebody else put garbage in your house, but you won't mind if they go put it in water body. You won't object. So that leads to cleaner drinking water. Hey, who is going to drink that dirty water? Let me buy water. That in turn returns plastic packaging water. Okay, so that leads to more plastic vehicles. Everywhere there are water bottles these days. So this is a positive cycle. Do you see the cycle? R1, the red line. So this goes on, and before you know, I just saw today, sometime back, one whole river in Philippines was full of plastic, right, before they cleaned it up. Okay, so that's what happens. Similarly, R2, where do we start for R2? Any volunteers? Where do we start for R2?
With clutter or
Okay, so let's say we start with clutter. That gives pollution, that gives water bodies. No, but this is not actually unidirectional. R2. Oh, okay, the outer one you can take. So generation, plastic waste, clutter. From clutter, I go to what is that?
Proper hygienic condition.
Proper hygienic conditions. Okay, that is a negative one. The garbage gives you lesser hygienic conditions. Lesser hygienic conditions means more water body
contamination.
contamination. So more hygiene. 1 second. Is it positive or negative? From
more clutter, less
not
hygienic
clutter.
condition.
More proper hygienic conditions. If you have, will you have? Okay, no. If you have less hygienic conditions, will it be less contamination or more contamination?
More contamination.
So there has to be a negative on this arrow. I don't know. Okay.
So that should be positive. There is more contamination. If
No. So less hygiene means more contamination, right?
right.
So less means more, means that is an opposite, not direct, inverse proportionality, right? I don't see any sign on this arrow.
Yeah.
It should be minus. Okay. So more of this, less of this, less of this, more of this is opposite, right? Okay. So contamination of water bodies. So more contamination, more demand for packaged water. So there's a plus here. That means more packaging waste. That means more waste generation, etc., like this. You come through. If you multiply them all, you will have a reinforcing positive loop. Okay. Go to the next one, sir. Move. Stop here. So I think he's just explaining by zooming in, maybe. Next, sir. Yeah, this one. Okay, so biogas energy. So renewable energy looks at biogas. Here, do we have any balancing balancing B, sir? Negative or balancing loop? Go to the next one. Let's see if he mentions it there. I'm looking for balancing or negative. Show here, sir. Show, stop. Go back. Yeah, stop here. So Here, he has identified one reinforcing, that is positive, and two balancing, that is two negative. If you are trying to do biogas from pigs, right? So let us look at B2. Venkateswara sir, can you explain B2?
Sir, I'm getting, sir. I cannot explain, sir. I'm
No,
getting
no,
the
no
things,
problem,
sir.
no problem, no
I'm
problem.
getting that.
Sorry.
Actually, it is similar to control system, sir. Control system subject is there. Positive feedback or negative feedback.
Okay.
We are
Okay.
using the Laplace transform, sir.
Okay.
Slowly, I'm getting the concept. Real
No,
concept.
no problem, no problem, sir. Any other volunteer who can explain? So if you follow B2, number of households with functional biogas plants, more the number of okay, so number who already have biogas plants, if more people have, if you go to a place where everybody has a car, how can you sell a car there? Okay, so number of households with functional biogas plant, number of households capable of building will be less, opposite. Then non-functional, oh my God, this is confusing.
Yeah, and the arrow around that B2, it's even kind
Yeah.
of.
So it is not in a cyclical manner. So you
Right.
will have to reverse it in a way. Okay. So, but anyway, so if you multiply, it is two negatives and a positive. So if there are three arches, arcs, and two of them are negative, one is positive, or all three are negative, is it?
Yeah, all three are negative.
So all three negative, when you multiply, what happens?
It comes, sir. Negative, it comes, sir.
Negative. So hence it's a balancing one. Okay.
Oh.
Whereas the other B1, how many are there, sir?
Positive,
Positive, positive, negative.
positive, negative.
So that multiply also negative.
That also negative, sir.
So that's why. Whereas look at R1, sir.
R1 positive. For positive only, sir.
Positive. That's why it is reinforcing. Positive. Okay.
B1, B2 are negative, R1 is positive.
Yeah. You can go to the next one, sir.
The doubt here.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
one.
Why we are multiplying the signs here, especially?
Okay. So basically, you go through a cycle and you come back to where you started. So you have come through hops. At each hop, I go up, that will also go up. If that goes up, that fellow will go up, etc., etc. So there is a positive, negative along this path. So when I come through the full loop, I have to multiply them all. So I want to see finally, is it a positive loop, feedback loop, or a negative feedback loop? Positive feedback loop means it will keep growing exponentially. Negative feedback loops, either it will oscillate or it will decay based on the parameter set. It cannot go exponentially increasing. Did I make sense, sir, or no?
So, but if you're saying if the two arcs are with a negative, then does it mean like will it end up in a positive, or that's where my
Let us say there are only two arcs and both are negative. Okay. Then when you multiply them, it will be it will be positive. It will be a positive feedback loop.
for that particular flow, whatever the negative flow, it will
Particular
be
loop will be reinforcing loop. It will go on forever, right? It keep increasing.
okay.
System will be unstable. So you as a policy decision maker won't have control to, if we have at least one negative loop, you can tinker parameters in such a way that you can get the output you want. It's like a potter's wheel. With both hands, you can get a pot that you want. With one hand, it is difficult, right? Okay, what happened, sir? Mutation, sir.
Sir. Sir.
We looked at two. What about the third one?
That's it.
Make the screen full.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, show that. Net zero. This is a little complex. Any simpler version has it zoomed in? Yeah. Okay, so he has identified some 4 factors: forest, new forest, wasteland, built up area. So I really don't know where these were, what these are, but I'm sure he is explaining in the video. Anybody has any doubts, we can discuss. Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, next. Any rural technology adoption? He was thinking aloud. Anything else? Any causal loop diagram for this he shared?
No, sir.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is how he was doing. Okay. So now, what we need to do is, um, so we need to look at the what we will do next week. Okay. So one is you use these to uh, uh, do the assignments. But more importantly, I'm interested in the next week's thing. So I'll share my screen. You can unshare, sir. Yeah.
I'll include my name in the sharing, sir. Next.
Right. So this. Okay. Okay.
1127, sir.
What is that?
1127 minutes.
1 second. I'm looking at something else. Please give me a second. Okay. So next week we want to take up participatory modeling of agri-water food situation in India 1970 to 2020. This is what we want to model. And we tried modeling like this. Okay, before I lose it, I will do this 1 second. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Looks like I'm having some problem. I'll put in the chat window those two links. Okay, so can anyone share their screen and open the first PPT? This is what we will discuss more next week. I posted two PPT links. Can one of you share your screen and open it? The first one. Thanks. Yeah. So, okay. So, this is, we looked at it. And if you look at this, this is the second one or the first one, sir?
First one, sir.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, this is severe food shortage, hunger in many parts of India until 70s. Okay. So, basically, what happened in the 60s, 70s was we were unable to feed our own population. We started importing wheat. So what happened? Births, population was increasing. Then wages, average yields, chemical fertilizers were not greatly available. Irrigation was not greatly available. Yields were very low. As a result, food production was low. And because of that, hunger became very high, and it was a problem. Whereas if you go to the next slide, sir, this is messy, but basically, we can look at the last one. Okay, so somewhere we decided that if you go to the very first slide, right? This is just slides under preparation. This is what I want you guys to think about and start contributing when we meet. Okay, so go to the first slide, sir. That's how green revolution, if you all know, if you see the three things below, chemical fertilizers, irrigation facilities, and mechanization. These are the three things that were brought in. All three led to better yields. Our productivity started increasing. Okay. Not only that, when you do irrigation, it also increases the cultivated area, irrigated area. Okay. So together, food production increased, and overall the hunger has come down in a way. Is one way of looking at things. But anyway, you can look at this. To open the other PPTs, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because that is how we thought first. Yeah. So we wanted to look at food crop disaggregation. So first we said, let us concentrate on cereals, pulses, and oil seeds. Okay. So instead of, we didn't want to look so much at, dairy, fish, poultry, meat, that's also important. But we wanted to take these three categories. Rice, wheat, we will begin with cereals first. Then we will add pulses and oil seeds. Then we will add the meat products to it. Okay. Vegetables, fruits, we said it won't come into food security. We will keep that out. So scoping is very important when you're trying to do modeling. Then somebody said, how about spatial variations? Now, given the increased infrastructure of our ability to move from one place to another, Government of India today, if there is starvation in one state, it will rush from some other state. We have that ability, trains, lorry, whatever, right? So spatial variation is not too much of an issue for us. So green is what we wanted to look at immediately. We said we will defer spatial variation. What is most important is area sown. How much area does get sown? That is one variable in our control. If you are anticipating a food crisis, you should make sure the area sown under food increases. That is something the government has control over. Second is PDS. One is on the supply side, how much food you produce. The other is how the food reaches people. People should have purchasing power. So if that is why ration shops came into picture, public distribution system. Then minimum support price, so that farmers are encouraged to grow. Now, all these were the points we discussed. Now, from this discussion, we went to the next slide. So we continue discussing. Next.
Just one thought here. So
Yeah.
like now we are in 2025. So compared to 70, how relevant is the problem? In the sense, like, do we have any statistics that there is hunger?
Yeah. So basically, it's like this, sir. Why do we go back in time? Why do we look at past? Basic question is, we want to model for the future. Our interest is future, not past, right? But somewhere, there's a saying: those who don't know history, we are tending to repeat it, right? So that in a related way, in a different way, if I modeled my model correctly, can that model explain my entire past? Future, I don't know. I will know only tomorrow what the future is, right? So if my model is correct, I first want it to fit to all the points that I already noticed. So that's why I want my model to capture what happened last 50 years. If I can explain what happened last 50 years and it captures well, I'm reasonably confident that the model will capture the future also well. That is why I'm interested in looking at the past. Is that does that explain what you wanted to ask, Aziz sir, or no?
Right, yeah.
In any machine learning problem also,
Right.
We look at the past. We look at existing photo where label is there, so that if our model can fit what is known, then my confidence that it will fit what is unknown will increase, isn't it?
Correct. But if you look at the spatial variation that we were talking, right, you already know there is good transportation. So you just thought like this is not relevant now, right?
True, exactly. But was it relevant? Was the railway infrastructure good in the 60s? So,
No.
So no. Now what I expect is in the 60s, there must have been hunger only in some pockets. Even though food surplus is in some places, there must have been hunger in other places. Is that true or not? I look at the data. I look at the data and say, look, that year Punjab was producing great, but still there was starvation in South.
Right.
Why? Because there is not enough. That will correlate and make my model correct. If it is not, then I have not explained correctly. Something is missing, isn't it?
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, and the food habits people, right? Like earlier, South was mostly on rice, but North was mostly wheat. Then wheat was not that kind of favorable here, but that slowly changed so that now people.
I'm not saying North South. Yeah, all those pictures also can. I'm saying within North also. When there was hunger in Bihar and there was surplus in Punjab, why didn't they ship it? The government. I really don't know. I'm just saying we are moving around in the dark, right? So it is always good to go across space and time and try to capture as much of facts as you can and explain them away. The more facts your model can explain, because you have data about that time. Newspaper clippings will tell you where the hunger was, where the food surpluses were. Okay. So if you can explain those facts, the more facts you can explain, the more confidence you will have on your model.
Right, but only concern is like it increases the number of variables in play, right? Like that.
Right.
Then
it's a very balancing act. It's not easy.
Right. Yeah.
And typically I found if you have more than 20 to 30, 40 is the maximum. After that, you can't comprehend that the causal loop diagram anymore. Right?
Right. Yeah.
And the stocks and flow diagram is even more tricky. Okay. So I agree. Yeah, all these you have to take into account. This is what this is not unlike machine learning where it's we can talk objectively. Here it's totally subjective. You are entitled to your view, I'm entitled to my view, and together we can agree to disagree, right? So this next week. That's why there are no assignments. Nothing. It's just an open discussion. Okay. Yeah. Next slide, sir. So based on those 2 slides points, okay, basically how it goes around is you go to the first slide, sir. So some 2 or 3 of us met, August. Then we noted down some point. We generally chatted. Whatever came to our mind, we kept noting down. Then go to next, slide 2. These are all the points we noted down, 2 slides of points. Then I sat down and go to slide 3. Some on paper, I do some causal loop diagram. Okay. And then go to slide 4. So we met on September and, we discussed, Anand said something, Nagesh said something. Next, please. Again, we met. So basically, we wrote down various points and we left it there. Okay. Now, basically, discussion like what Aziz sir was pointing out and what I was saying, all these finally have to reflect in the causal loop diagram. Okay. So if you go to the next PPT, not this, the next PPT, the other PPT. Yeah. So you go to slide 2. We started getting confused. Okay, we discussed so much, all these points. Everybody was saying so many things. How do we put it in the CLD? That's not easy. Like too many variables. That's what Aziz sir was now saying. Okay. So then we start simplifying. Okay, no, this is more important. Let's look at these more. Okay. So we tried to do that. Then we oversimplified. Go to slide 3. That is too simple. Then we came back to slide 1. Okay, this looks reasonable. There are about 10, 20. Let's stick to this. This is where we stop, right? This is February 2025. Okay, so now I want to open the debate again and let us try to add, delete to these. So I want you guys to look at these things and come up with your own. And that day, Wednesday when we meet, I would like at least 2, 3 of you to say, look, what you drew is misses this point. This is the correct point. Okay, like that. So to me, there are 3 phases or 4 phases in Indian agriculture. Until 70s, when there was severe food shortage. Then the agricultural revolution. We had bumper harvest, everything. 80s, 90s, right? And then post 2000, suddenly the bubble collapsed. Groundwater evaporated because we overdrew. Okay, last 10, 20 years. Then what is going to come next? Post 2020, 2025. What happens if our groundwater is depleted, our monsoons fail us? What will happen to us? How are our buffer stocks? How resilient we are? Etc. I want to look at. Anyway, these are the rough 3, 4 phases. You can disagree and say there are 5 phases, or there are only 2 phases. So let us discuss more when we meet next Wednesday. Request all of you to join, even though it's optional and all that. Okay. Any other questions so far?
Yeah, so the abbreviations in this, right? Like, can you just explain?
What is that, sir?
The short forms used, H5V, FIM. Can you elaborate?
Okay, yeah. So FIM is organic fertilizers, farmyard manure, cow dung.
Okay.
As opposed to chemical fertilizers.
Right.
In the 70s, fertilizers were low. People were only using cow dung. Okay, cow dung or whatever dung, right? Green manure, locally available thing. Labor was low cost. People could get those. Now labor has become very costly. Green manure, cutting branches is no longer possible. When I went in 95 to this village, we were doing a whole lot of chopping the branches, the green manure we used to do. Now it is too costly, we cannot do. Okay, fertilizers have become cheaper. Yeah. And rural urban, what is the other full form you wanted, sir? HYV is high yielding variety seeds.
Okay.
Apart from chemical fertilizers, apart from pesticides, the seed varieties have changed. Right?
Right. Yeah.
High yielding variety. Right? Yeah. Anyway.
And the dotted lines, any specific meanings like solid lines and dotted lines?
Okay. Solid line is we are not sure. Should it be there or not there?
Okay.
That link, rural urban migration impacts labor. It is something I noticed. People have left the village. There's nobody to hire. Okay. So I thought rural migration, more people migrate out, less labor available. Okay. But then, people were not very clear if that should be there or not there. Right? Yeah. Poverty. Does poverty have any influence on cultivated area? I don't know. But somebody suggested wages and poverty. Obviously, there is a relation, but somebody objected. So we wanted to remember all those questioning points, right? Anyway, so
Sir?
all this we'll discuss next week. Sir, go on, sir.
Sir, this presentation, unfortunately, I couldn't join yesterday, so I'm not sure whether this has been on the chat, shared on the chat, which I cannot access now,
So
or is it shared in the groups?
Okay, so we will repost.
Yeah, if you can send it through groups, it will be easy to access. Because
Okay.
chat
Yeah.
once the session is completed, it is lost. We cannot access the chat.
Yeah. So I request somebody to post in the groups. Otherwise, I'll post. Venkateswara sir, can you please post this in the groups?
Oh, which one, sir?
This latest participatory modeling, whatever is there in the chat.
Yeah, the link, someone has posted the link, participatory modeling of
Yeah.
to everyone. Is that the one, sir? The docs, Google
That
Doc.
is what we are
shared.
showing now, sir. That is what we will be discussing next week.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay, sir. So we will break now. Unless there are any doubts, you can go ahead and ask now. Otherwise, we'll break now. And please do come for the Wednesday meeting. Professor Abhijit will also be there. Okay. And we will try to take this forward. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.